Hi everyone, hard to believe, but here we are at part 11, where I want to talk about introducing ring figures. Some of you might have noticed that for the most part, all I do is go straight around the arena with DW at this point, and that's on purpose. I don't start introducing ring figures to horses this green until I feel like I can have them steadily pushing. They're at least a tiny bit settled in the contact like he is now, where I wouldn't call him steady, but he is learning to push into the hand. And so for the most part, I want him to just push straight around the arena, not make a ton of circles, especially when we go into the canter here. He needs to be allowed to really go straight and go forward and cover ground and just push. And that is, for the most part, what I want a young horse to be doing. So when I feel like this is going pretty well, like it is now with Dubs, then I will start to introduce some ring figures after going straight in the trot and the canter. For the most part at this point, the canter is still just straight ahead. Big forward canter. Here he gets a little sucked back in this left lead, so I have to send him a little more forward than he would like. And I don't want to try to be doing very many circles with him. I want to really let him go. And if you have an arena that is even bigger than 20 by 60 with a fence around it, that would be even better. As soon as I can, I'm going to ride this horse out in the field so I can let him canter even more forward and cover even more ground. But once I've done my first set here, and I'm going to canter to the right in a moment and go straight and let him just go forward, then I'm going to start with some basic ring figures. And one of the things that dressage riders are known for is how anal we are about ring figures. And that's not just because we're all type A obnoxious people. That's also because it helps put our horses on the aids to ride accurate ring figures. If I know exactly where a 20-meter circle goes, I also know exactly when my horse begins to fall in or fall out, and I can help put him between my aids by insisting that he stay exactly on my line. Now, with a baby horse that's this green, it's quite hard to stay exactly on my line all the time, but that's part of what the ring figures are going to help him learn how to do. So ring figures take a while for the rider to learn exactly where they go, and we forget that they also take a while for the horse to learn. So up until now, I've been riding Dubs straight ahead, down the long side, cutting off the corners. So that's what he knows. When I start this figure 8 pattern here, he keeps being a little surprised. He doesn't know where to look. So teaching the horse the circles of the arena and some basic ring figures like figure 8s and serpentines, they start to learn to listen even more closely to you for where to go in the arena and where to look in the arena. This also goes back to why I spent so much time with lunging. Part of lunging is teaching the horse the circle, that he's to stay on the circle, stay out on a 20-meter circle. So once I put him on a circle, he should feel fairly at home there because of the lunging. And if he were a much hotter horse, then I might have to do more circles than flying straight down the long side. Here I'm going to start asking him if he might want to stretch down a little bit on the circle, because he's going to be much more likely to stretch down on a circle than he is on the straightaway. The figure 8 that I was riding is my first go-to exercise that I do at this stage. It's a half circle at S&R 20 meters and a half circle at V&P 20 meters connected by a line in between. When you properly ride this 20-meter circle at S&R and the 20-meter circle at V&P, they do not touch each other in the middle. So that's why I have to make more of a flattened out figure 8, which I find is a better figure a lot of times for a horse this green than two circles that actually do touch each other, like the circle at C and then the circle around X, although that would be a fine pattern as well. The next pattern that I do with a horse this green is to just ride 20-meter circles, moving them down the arena, starting at C, moving down to A, across the diagonal, same thing the other way. I'm using the circles to teach him where the circles go and to help bring him on the aids by trying to make them as accurate as I can. And the circles are going to help me to begin to teach him a little bit about bending. But I want to be clear here, I'm not trying to bend him yet on the circle to the inside. If he happens to bend a little bit because he's going round and he's pushing and he's on the right figure, that is great, and I will praise him and allow that for sure. But I'm not working actively to bend him yet. I'm letting the circle put his body in the right shape. The other figure I go ahead and introduce now is turning up the center line, and I use the word center line to teach him from that word, same way I would canter, to turn up the center line. So I use that word with my young horses to help them know, oh, that means I need to turn up the middle. And here you can see it is not very easy to turn a baby horse on a 10-meter line like that. And now we're going to try to do the 20-meter circles the other way. So that's okay if he, there he was very hard to steer for a moment. But that's fine. I'm just teaching him where we're going. We're going off the center line and we're turning, and 10 meters is really tight for this poor big guy. But he has to figure it out, and he can do it. And then we start to come onto the circles, and he didn't expect that and was bulging a little through the outside shoulder. So that's fine. We just go straight for a moment in between, and then we try the next one and see if we can keep him a little straighter across his shoulders. That's better there, that he doesn't bulge that right shoulder so much. So all of these circles help me to bring him on the aids. Yep, and there he says, surely we don't have to make this turn, but we do. And we're going to try to come again up the center line. And I use that word in the same way, in the same intonation every time. And then we're going to try to come through the walk, plenty of steps of walk, and then down to the halt. I like to go ahead and practice center line and then eventually halt with a horse, even this green. Obviously, Dubs is not going to a show anytime very soon. He's clearly not ready. But he can go ahead and learn to turn up the center line and learn that the center line is a line of the arena just like any other line, the diagonal, the track, etc. And I want him to learn to come quietly to a halt on the center line, not always at X, because I do not want him to learn that we always stop at X, but somewhere on the center line. And then we just stand there, and then sometimes that's the end of our ride still, the same way it was in the very beginning. Now I want to talk for a moment about the walk. You can see still that in the walk, even though this horse has a good walk, he's not thinking of stretching down quite as much as you would like for a free walk, but that's okay. I still let him walk on the buckle, pat him, and I am not going to try to force this horse round at the walk. That is not going to go well. The walk is the hardest gait to improve and the easiest gait to ruin. So I want this horse to walk in a very natural way, 95% of the time on the buckle, as long as I'm safe, and only 5% of the time on contact, which is usually just because I'm getting ready to pick up the trot. Once he understands the contact even better at the trot and canter, I can convince him to stretch down a little bit more than this in the walk eventually. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please stay tuned because next we're going to take him on his first outing and take him free jumping so we can talk about both of those things.